Hello. Hi, I'm Mr. K, a cartoon goat that likes explaining things, and today we will learn together about percentages. So, where shall we start? Before we do anything else, what we need to do is explain it. So, I would like you to take a moment and have a think about what is a percentage. Could you explain what percentage mean? Try to pause the video and explain it to your friend, family, pet, or a toy. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Do 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 do. So, back with me already? Fantastic. Now, the question was, what is a percentage? If your answer was a fraction with the denominator of 100, that's absolutely brilliant because that's exactly what it is. Percent means literally per hundred. Percent means per hundred. So percentage is a fraction with the denominator of 100. Let's look at an example. Here I have 100 square, which has 10 squares in a column and 10 squares in a row. So if I highlighted 3 squares, what would the percentage be? Have a think? Yes, the percentage would be 3 out of 100, which is the same as 3%. Give yourself a pat on the back if that was your answer. But what if I highlighted the entire row? What would the fraction be right now? Pause the video and tell your friend, parent, pet, or a toy. As usual, I'll be here. Remember that percentage is a fraction with the denominator of 100. So, answer o'clock. There is 10 squares, so that's highlighted. So that's 10 hundredths, which is the same as 10%. If that was your answer, absolutely brilliant. Now, we could spend a lot of time giving each other examples like that, but I'm sure year 5, by that, you know that. Let's move on to our actual lesson today. And today's lesson is going to be about converting fractions into percentages. Now, we know that percentages are fractions with the denominator of 100, right? So converting fractions with the denominator of 100, it's fairly straightforward. I just take the denominator and that's going to be the number of my percentage. However, not all the percentages, not all the fraction, pardon me, have the denominator of 100. What would happen if I had a fraction that the denominator would not be 100? Well, let's have a look at the math story. Adam, Betty, and Charlie were playing basketball. They all scored a different amount of points and they all threw a different amount of shots. Who has the best score? Now, we use percentages to turn any value into fraction out of 100, so we can compare values with different wholes. Let's have a look. Adam says I scored 7 throws out of 10. Betty says, out of 25 throws, I scored 15. Now Charlie says, out of 20 throws, I scored 13. Now, right now, you could pause the video and try to record all the scores as a fraction. Try to pause the video, take a piece of paper, and try to write down scores for Adam, Betty, and Charlie as a fraction. Let's wait. Okay, so Adam scored 7 throws out of 10 possible ones. So if your fraction was 7/10, well done. Betty scored 15 throws and she had 25 throws altogether. So her fraction was 15 out of 25. Charlie scored 13 throws out of 20 altogether. Now the problem is that we can't compare who has the best score because the denominators are different. Try to pause the video and try to discuss with your parent, friend, or pet how would you compare fractions with different denominators? What would you do? So, so let's try to see our math story. Let's name the parts Adam, Betty, and Charlie. Charlie scored 7 out of 10 throws. Betty scored 15 out of 25 throws. And Charlie scored 13 out of 20. Now the question is, who has the best score? Let's have a look. Because the denominators are different, we can see that the wholes are different as well. So, what do we know about percentages? Percentages are fractions with the denominator of 100. And I can only compare, order, add, or subtract fractions when they have the same denominator. So what I will want to do is I will want to turn the fraction into denominator of 100. Can you think, what would I have to multiply 10 to change it into a fraction out of 100? Pause the video and I will wait. Do. Pause the video. Are you ready? Great. I would have to multiply 10 by 10 because 10 times 10 gives me 100. So whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator, and I will also have to multiply it by 10. 7 times 10 gives me 70. So that's 70 hundredths. So that's 70 hundredths for Adam. Let's have a look at Betty. What's Betty's denominator? She had 25 throws. So her whole is 25. And I want to turn it into a fraction with the denominator of 100. What would I have to multiply 25 by to go and turn it into 100? In other words, how many times 25 goes into 100? Have a think. And if your answer was 4, that is absolutely correct. Now, whatever I do to the denominator, I will have to do to the numerator. and I'll get a simple answer. Discuss with your parent, friend, or a pet. What would 15 times 4 be? And if your answer was 60, that's absolutely brilliant. You are correct. So that's 60 hundredths. 60 hundredths for Betty. Now let's have a look at Charlie. What's Charlie's denominator? His denominator is 20. And we know that percentages are a fraction with a denominator of 100. How many times does 20 go into 100? Have a think. And if your answer is 5, then it's absolutely brilliant. Well done. So whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. And now 13 times 5. This is a perfect moment to do your own calculation. Pause the video, have a minute, and if your answer is 65, you're absolutely correct. Well done. So now, turning it into percentages shouldn't be a problem at all. 70 hundredths is equal to 70%, 60 hundredths is equal to 60%, and 65 hundredths is equal to 65%. Let's move on to some independent practice. So, this is our final practice. Below me, there is a square. The square is shared equally into white and grey squares. The question is, what percentage of the whole are the grey shaded squares? Well, our first step will be to record it as a fraction. Before we turn it into percentage. So take a moment and count how many squares is there altogether to determine your denominator and how many squares are shaded in. Pause the video, take notes, and whenever you're ready, we're going to solve it all together. Are you ready? Excellent. Let's go. So there is 5 columns with 5 squares each, and there's 5 in each row. So 5 times 5 gives me a denominator of 25. If that was your denominator, excellent work. Now, I can spot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 2, and 5 times 2 gives me 10. So that's 10 25ths. So we've turned it into a fraction. Now, if you look here, we have to convert it into denominator of 100 because percentages are fractions with denominator of 100. Once again, how many times 25 goes into 100? If your answer was 4, that's absolutely brilliant. And whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So all I have to do is to multiply 10 times 4, which gives me answer of 40%. If your answer was 40%, you know how to convert fractions into percentages. So really well done. Any questions, you know where to find me, and we'll practice it independently in our quiz tomorrow. Have a great evening. Bye.